clearly, really good chipping and pitching is built around foundations of what you do well in setup, what you do well in body movement, that's both your rib cage and your lower body, but it's just as much built on an awareness of what I'm going to term grip couples that I'm going to unpack and explore such that you're educated to know what you should be feeling through your hands to accompany good setup and accompany good body motion such that you're hitting really good greenside shots. So let's talk about the basics first, the setup, but the secret sauce in this video is going to be way towards the end when we start to talk about those hidden sensations through the grip that you're going to need to start to feel to ensure that you have that really crisp spinning contact versus fighting contact. So, short game. Standard would be feet about a club head width apart, pressure over our left side, so over the lead foot, probably 80-20 or even pushing to 90-10 with a little spine tilt towards the target. If we wanted to go more mid-trajectory, we're going to start to alter the stance to about 3.5 club head widths. So that's just stance underneath knees, underneath hips. Ball position, never forward of center, so back of ball is at center or even slightly back behind center. I still got that pressure bias towards the lead side at address. Then finally, if we think of a third trajectory, which would be called maybe the penthouse or the elevated to full height, we would go quite wide, which introduces a chance that I'm pretty shallow with my base. I'm going to start to turn loft on the club, keeping the handle pretty darn neutral. And I'm going to start to work my pressure 50-50 and then keep it 50-50 throughout the stroke. Those first two trajectories are likely to involve some amount of tip to the target with my body mass, which actually moves that 80-20 to 90-10 or the 90-10 to 95-5 as I pivot on through. Know that as we unpack the movement, whether we're talking about a low traj, mid traj, or high traj shot, the body movements that we're going to use are identical. So what are those body movements? Let's go with a standard mid-trad shot. I'm going to hit one this time. There's an involvement of rib cage motion, but there's just as much involvement of pelvis motion and also knee motion. So we're actually using the entire column of our body back and through. Okay, you can see what I've done there. I've allowed pressure. If you slowed that one down, you'd see a movement to my lead side, some amount in the backswing. I've centered my upper body mass a little bit more to the left side in the backswing, and then I've pivoted around that point. At no point in time am I looking to be steady or fixed, rigid, if you will, with my lower body. I'm trying to do a dance, upper body and lower body together. There's a marriage of movement that needs to go on and will go on if you look at any really good short game player. So how do we ensure that we've got that sense of good rib cage motion? We can do an exercise putting the butt of the club in your navel or right around your belt buckle and just feeling the start of the swing where the club and your arms move only because your body is rotating, right? So what does a lower body movement feel like? It simply feels like I'm letting my knees and my pelvis go as well. I'm keeping very, very mobile down there. So connect the club to your chest or to your abdomen. Feel arms and club move in conjunction with your ribcage motion. That's going to ensure that you have really good control of, let's say, the swing bottom as a function of body motion. But now stage 3, what is that hidden grip couple sensation? We're going to shift to a down target line camera and start to unpack that. Okay, now here is the secret sauce inside of really good pitching and chipping. And I would say that these sensations are largely hidden because they're inside our hands and forearms. They affect the grip, which then in turn affects the club head. They're soft, they're subtle sensations for the most part, but they are mission critical to the extent that you can control your contact really well and then ultimately control trajectory as you need to and want to develop that skill for improved play. So let's unpack the contact first. So far too often, players that face problems with contact all the way up to the most elite level players, they might be using their body correctly, but at some point they get abundant in terms of what they're doing through the grip in the wrong direction, right? So if I'm making a backswing that's largely driven by moving my arms and or using my wrists, and I create a movement that is ulnar deviation, right? Ulnar deviation is turning our thumbs towards our toe line. That movement brings the club inside this imaginary plane that I've created here, which is a visual representation of, let's say, the plane that I'm trying to swing this club on. If I kick my thumbs towards the ground, I'm inside. From there, I'm dead. I have to create some sort of course correction. That course correction is hard to accomplish when we don't have a long range of motion in the swing, AKA a full swing. So short range chips, mid-range pitches, really hard to course correct when you've created too much ulnar deviation from the get-go. In addition, if we've created too much right wrist extension from the get-go, oftentimes, particularly for mid-trajectory or high trajectory shots, what we've started to create is too much strength, too much squareness in the club face that's going to cancel out the possibility that we could hit it higher than more of a low trajectory bump and run or chip style shot. So then what we have is we have a sensation that we need to feel through the grip, which is a combination of two things. If we can think of the grip like it's a seesaw, our left hand's riding on one end of the seesaw and our right hand's riding on the other end of the seesaw, there needs to be some amount of push down to the butt end of the club, like I'm trying to push the butt end of the club towards my trail thigh, as I'm lifting up ever so softly or slightly through my index finger of my right hand, lifting the end of the grip where my Superstroke logo is, up, and that keeps the club head pitched up on plane versus it swinging back in. If that's all I did, that's what the swing would look like. Well, we know that's not a good chipping and pitching motion. There's no range along the plane. I'm just lifting the club up out of plane. So marry this together with some amount of rotation, finding that sensation that moves the club along the hand path or pitch just outside the hand path, and then you have your backswing sensation, ensuring that that club is staying on a nice, clean and even and fluid planar motion, ensuring that it's not deep inside. So here's the backswing, married together body, grip couple, nice mid-trajectory pitch, get in. All right, that's an up and down. I hit it to about 18 inches. So once that's done in the backswing, our job's not done, unfortunately. That's only half the job. There's still a need for us to create a similar sensation to unwind, but not over unwind that motion in the downswing. So if I create what's called radial deviation, right? This was ulnar deviation, spins the club head towards my toe line in the backswing, I get inside. So I create some amount of radial deviation, which brings the club head on the hand path, but then I need to get out of it some amount, but I don't want to over get out of it, because if I over get out of it, this is what's going to happen. I actually miss the golf ball towards the inside because I'm creating an out of plane rotation. It's almost like the club's trying to swing back between my legs, and I chunk it and I hit it way off the edge of the club, and that ball's only 4 or 5 feet to the right of me. Disaster, right? So you're unlikely to make that level of mistake, the level of mistake that I just on purpose created. But there's some amount of that sensation that still needs to be kicked in. And so here's the best way for you to feel that. I want you to take your trail hand off the club and I want you to put it up on top of the grip. And then I want you to apply a little pressure downward, like you're trying to push the club head towards the ground. Therefore, you're asking a question of your lead forearm to hold that radial deviation stable into impact to where we're not getting out of that too much. So some amount of that stability holding the thumb, that left thumb, that right thumb up in the air is necessary in the downswing to ensure that we're not overdoing, getting ulnar deviation, getting ulnar in the downswing, causing that fat and that toe. Where'd that one go to? All right, 4 feet, just pin high to the right. Now, as a final word, I know this is pretty long, but thanks for staying in there with me. As a final word, that's just a standard pitch shot, right? Mid-trajectory pitch. What then happens is I've used kind of all my available turf here, so I'll just go kind of inside the divots. What happens if we're hitting a low trad shot? The same thing. We have some amount of kick down on the handle, tip of the handle, up on the grip for a low trad shot. The difference being I'm moving the handle further along the arc. So now we're on face on camera. I'm moving the handle further along the arc to make sure that I'm delivering low dynamic loft. Let's go to the other end, and this one I will hit eventually. Now I'm going wide. I've really spread the bottom of the arc out, so I'm nice and flat, not steep. I've got loft on the club, my handle's perpendicular to target, but I'm not in. I'm contributing the same grip couple through the backswing. I'm hinging, so this is moving in plane now, right? So now the radial deviation to kick the club up, now moving as I'm rotating is now moving the club towards my shoulder, and then eventually I still hold that same sensation on the downswing, and the club kicks under this direction. Just like so. A lot of ground grab there because I've made several divots, and so I'm hitting inside of those divots. But that one's 7 feet pin high to the left, and that trajectory was way high. Why was the trajectory high? Not because I necessarily changed anything other than my address. I certainly didn't change the grip couples. I just added some in-plane hinging, and then I let that in-plane hinging also create dynamic loft and increased dynamic loft through impact, and I stood it up right here. So, what are the lessons to be learned? There's a foundation clearly of address and also body motion that form part of really good short game technique. But then there are those hidden sensations that you need to explore, that you need to educate yourself to do some amount. Know that if you do too much, we just get the opposite. So rather than if we ulna deviate and backswing, get it stuck inside, or get out of that radial, get ulna too much in the downswing and point our thumbs to the ground, we'll hit chunk toes. If we do the opposite, we'll start to migrate that contact a little lower in the face and also towards the heel. So those could be the tells that might tell you the amount you're doing being a little bit too much. So read and react to the feedback. Chunk toes, I'm going to tell you to try and discover adding a little bit more of this in the backswing or sustaining a little bit more in the downswing. Now you know how to do it, and better short game shots are in your future.